Hi everyone, this is Miss Cantu. Today we're going to be reading a new story. The story we're going to read is Stand Tall, Molly Lou Melon. And this one is written by Patty Lovell and David Ketro. Okay, so what is this called right here? Our front cover. What about back here? The back cover. This is our spine. We have our title and our title page. Okay, so while we're reading today, I want you to pay attention to the moral of the story, or that just means the message that the story is trying to give us or wants us to gain. So make sure as I'm reading to pay attention to the moral of the story. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. Stand Tall, Molly Lou Melon. Molly Lou Melon stood just taller than her dog and was the shortest girl in the first grade. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Walk as proudly as you can and the world would look up to you." So she did. Molly Lou Melon had buck teeth that stuck out so far she could stack pennies on them. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Smile big and the world will smile right alongside you." So she did. Molly Lou Melon had a voice that sounded like a bullfrog being squeezed by a boa constrictor. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Sing out clear and strong, and the world will cry tears of joy." So she did. Molly Lou Melon was often fumblefinger. That just means that she's not always very careful, so she might knock things down or break things, kind of like being clumsy. So fumblefinger is just the same thing as saying being clumsy. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Believe in yourself and the world will believe in you too." So she did. So what does Molly Lou's grandma tell her to do? What does she tell her? I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it. Okay, so Molly Lou's grandma tells her to stand her ground and be herself despite some things that other people may not like that she does or about herself. So she just tells her basically to be proud of herself and who she is, right? Let's continue and see what happens in the story. What happens next? Then Molly Lou Melon moved to a new town. She had to say goodbye to her grandma and all of her friends. and start in a new school. On the first day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Shrimpo in gym class. When the game started, Molly Lou Melon caught the football, ran under the legs of Ronald Durkin, and scored a touchdown. All the children thought, wow, she's good. And Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the second day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Bucky Tooth Beaver. Molly Lou Melon took out her pennies, stacked 10 high on her teeth, and smiled as big as day. All the children smiled with glee, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. So what's happening so far as she's in her new school? What's happening so far? Okay, so we see that Ronald Durkin has been calling her names and making fun of her, and he's not being very nice and welcoming as she's coming to her new school, right? Let's see what continues to happen in the story. On the third day of school, Ronald Durkin said, "You sound like a sick duck, honk honk." Molly Lou Melon sang out a quack so clear and strong that it made Ronald Durkin somersault backwards, hit his head, and have to go to the nurse. All the children cried with joy to be free of Ronald Durkin for the rest of the afternoon, and Ronald Durkin felt very, very foolish. Okay. So does Molly Lou seem to mind about all the things that Ronald Durkin is telling her? Take a few seconds to think about it. Okay, so you're right. She doesn't seem to care because we see that she's still showing him all the cool things that she can do despite what he says about her. So she's kind of proving him wrong in a way, and that's making him feel really foolish. So she's not feeling upset about it. She's still standing tall and feeling proud of herself and who she is, despite what he says. Okay, let's continue on to the next page and see what happens. On the fourth day of school, Ronald Durkin said that she'd made the snowflake all wrong. But Molly Lou Melon opened up her paper and revealed the most beautiful snowflake of all. All the children oohed and awed, even Ronald. So you see Ronald right there. He's looking puzzled. Over here, we see that he thought that this was going to be a mess, that it wasn't going to go good. But of course, Molly Lou proved them wrong. And she ended up doing the coolest snowflake. On the fifth day of school, Ronald Durkin brought Molly Lou Melon a stacking penny for her tooth and smiled at her. So how did Ronald Durkin change? How did he change from the beginning of when he met Molly Lou to now? How did he change? Take a few seconds to think about it. Okay, So we see that he saw how cool her snowflake actually was and how wrong he was about everything that he had said about her. So we can see here in the text that he started being nice to her and actually gave her a stacking penny from her tooth from that time where she stacked the pennies from her teeth. Okay, so we see that he changed his mind about teasing her and decided to be nice instead. Okay, let's go to the next page. That night, Molly Lou Melon took out a pencil and paper and wrote a letter to her grandma. Dear Grandma, I wanted to tell you that everything you told me was exactly right. Love, Molly Lou Melon. So what did Molly Lou realize based on the letter that she sent her grandma? What did she realize? Okay, so she realized that her grandma was right about everything that he told her, that she told her in the beginning about being proud of herself and standing her ground. Because we see what happened in the end after she was able to do all that. Okay, and we see how people still loved her and loved who she was and the things that she did. And eventually, we see that Ronald Durkin changed his mind about her and started being nice to her. Okay, so that's the end of our story. Okay, so now that we're done reading, I want you to think for a few seconds, what is the moral of the story or the message that we can gain from this story? What is the moral of the story? Okay, so a good moral of this story would be that we should all love ourselves despite what others think of us, as we saw Molly Lou do, right? So we are all special in our own way, and we should not let what others tells us about ourselves affect us, because that's not always the case. We know who we are, and it doesn't matter what anybody else tells us. We should always stand our ground and stand tall like Molly Lou. Okay, so that's what we can learn from this story. We should stand up to bullies and not let what they say to us affect us. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed our story, Stand Tall, Molly Lou Melon, and I will see you next time with another story. I hope you have a good week, and I will see you again soon. Bye.